Story 1.
To make this easier, I'm going to call my daughter Brittany, she's 24, my son Tyler, 25, and his wife Carla, 25. They have a 1-year-old son now. I'm over Carla and honestly hope my son wakes up and divorces her. Basically, I can't stand Carla because she is a spoiled brat who has made it her personal mission to make Brittany feel unwelcome in the family, and my whipped son lets it happen. It has been happening for years, Carla always doing things like having Christmas ornaments on her tree with every member of her family, including in-laws such as her siblings' spouses, except for Brittany, and making sure Brittany knows it, telling me that I am free to visit them and the baby, but Brittany better not be around. Carla is endlessly making nasty comments about Brittany, and if Brittany dares say, "I'd rather you didn't speak to me like that," Carla tells her that she won't get to see her nephew anymore. Brittany loves her nephew, and Carla uses the baby as a weapon to try and make Brittany tolerate abuse. And if we try and reason with them, we get accused of siding with Brittany and told we won't see our grandson. What is really sad is that Brittany is a great aunt. They are also punishing their child with this pettiness. I obviously care about my grandson and want to see him, but I refuse to be manipulated by an obese 25-year-old high school dropout who has never held a job for more than 4 weeks and has the worst hair extensions I've ever seen. I will not be told to sacrifice my relationship with my daughter. It's obvious she is jealous. She is always labeling Brittany for being shallow and anorexic, for being thinner than her, calling her a snob, because she is university educated, and spoiled, because we contributed to the cost of her university education. The exact same offer was made to Tyler, but he chose not to go to university. She purposely cooks nothing but food she knows Brittany is unable to eat due to allergies when she is hosting the family. Tyler does nothing. Tyler was always great to Brittany until this girl came alone. The straw that broke the camel's back happened today when I had a birthday lunch for my husband at our home and invited extended family. Carla showed up and was trash talking about Brittany to her aunts and a cousin. Brittany got mad and took her aside and asked her to stop. Carla started the whole, "I am family, you have to respect me," ironic much, and gave more threats that no one will see the kid. "You do not come to my home, to an event I am hosting, and insult my daughter to her aunts and make her feel unwelcome and upset at her own father's birthday function." I don't care if this sounds biased because at the end of the day, Brittany is my daughter and you're just the woman my son married. This was Brittany's family first. How dare you try and make her feel unwanted in her own family? Brittany went, took Carla aside and asked her to stop what she was doing. Carla played the victim and started screaming, "You are saying I'm not part of this family, blah blah blah, you'll never see your nephew again," which upset Brittany. And Tyler? I know that when you get married, you make your spouse the priority in your life, but the fact you refuse to understand what is so wrong with what Carla did shows just how pathetic you are. I also know that if Brittany dared to go to your home and insult Carla to a member of her family, you'd be calling for her head. Your double standards are pathetic. You expect Brittany to kiss Carla's oversized fat bum but are happy to size back and let Carla treat Brittany the way she'd treat something on the bottom of her shoe. You demand Brittany respect Carla but don't expect Carla to respect Brittany. So no, Tyler, I am not going to be telling your sister that she needs to be reminded that Carla is your wife. You will be telling your wife that she needs to show Brittany respect, or she will not be invited to any family events in the future. Carla doesn't have to like Brittany, and Lord knows Brittany can't stand her after all this, but if she continues to come to family events, she will be expected to be civil and polite to all members of the family, and that includes Brittany. Tyler has spent 3 years complaining about how Brittany was the favorite grandchild of their grandmother, Husnan's mother. She passed away 3 years ago. Tyler? Maybe you should look at why Brittany was the favorite grandchild. Your sister always made an effort to visit her grandmother. She'd go and visit her once or twice a week and they'd have a cup of tea and talk for a couple of hours. She'd often also call her a couple of times a week just to say hello for 10 minutes. It meant a lot to your grandmother, because she had been a widow for 10 years and was very lonely. You only ever saw her at Christmas or when you happened to be at our home when she was at our home. She always said you should come visit. You never did. You always said you are busy. But you know what? Brittany is busy too, but she always made the time to visit her grandmother. So, you don't get to complain that Brittany was her favorite, because Brittany became her favorite because she put effort into the relationship. Your grandmother was a fair and reasonable woman, not the type to have favorites for silly reasons. Brittany became the favorite because she invested in the relationship, something you didn't do. And I find it telling that you only started to care that Brittany was the favorite when your grandmother passed away and the will was read and she left Brittany a nice sum of money to study abroad and travel, because it was something they used to talk about. You only cared about your relationship with your grandmother once she died, and you realized your lack of investment in it meant you didn't get left money just for you. I don't even know where I am going with this, but I hate Carla. I'm sick of Tyler's enabling her, and my heart breaks for Brittany, because I heard her on the phone crying about how her family has become hell since Carla married into it, and considering applying for graduate school overseas to escape this. Anyone else's son married a such girl, or just me?
My opinion. This all sounds a bit one-sided. Are you sure you do not just put your child up and put down your son's partner? You might not like this girl, but I'm sure you may find a common ground. Just try to discuss it with both of them. Maybe there is some conflict between them you don't know about. This whole situation looks unhealthy to me. Probably you're the one who can fix it. Give it a try. Story 2.
First, some background. I was born in a small Eastern European country still under Soviet occupation. From what my grandparents have told me, my mom and dad had a very volatile relationship, which included both my dad cheating on my mom and beating her. As soon as I was born, they split up and quickly divorced, while me and my mom came to live with my grandparents. When I was around 3 years old, the Soviet Union collapsed, lifting the Iron Curtain and giving people the opportunity to leave the country. My mom got a tourist visa and came to the United States while I stayed to live with my grandparents. She has never told me why she didn't bring me with her, but my grandparents explained that it was to give her the opportunity to get established and then bring me later on. The story goes that my mom tried to marry someone who bailed on her. She then struggled for many years financially, moving cities and changing jobs. Eventually, she found someone who she married who helped her stabilize financially and also helped her get a pathway to permanent residency and eventually citizenship. With both of their efforts, I got the opportunity to come to the US as well at the age of 16. 13 years after my mom had left. After coming, I did well at school and was able to get into college and went on to graduate from a professional school. While at school, I met my wife, who is an immigrant from South America. We found a connection in making it while being first-generation immigrants and got married when I was 28. Now to the conflict. The first time my mom met my wife went reasonably well. My wife had to translate from Spanish and my mom got irritated that she is really missing the point in her translation, which in turn kind of upset my wife. But at that time, I didn't think much more of it. About 1 year after our marriage, my wife invited my family to visit her family in her home country. It ended up being a great trip. Multiple of my family members from East Europe came as well as my mom. The trip was for the most part a road trip which involved driving for at least several hours each day and staying at different hotels and such for the nights. An exciting trip of sightseeing but can be quite exhausting. In addition, there were substantial changes in altitude, so most of us at some point felt a bit lightheaded or nauseated. But during the tail end of the trip something happened. I wasn't there to see it and there was a conflicting account. We had just checked into a hotel, and I was unpacking while my wife, her parents, who also came along and actually organized the road trip, and my mom were still downstairs in the lobby. My wife came to me almost in tears and said that my mom had been screaming profanities at my wife's mom and that I needed to talk to her. Although the story isn't clear, supposedly my mom did not like something my wife's mom did, shouted in her face and stormed off. I never found out what it was that upset her. After talking with my wife, we decided that it was best to wait until the end of the road trip, which was the following day, and then approach my mom. My plan was to approach her and ask what happened. My wife, still upset that her mom has been screamed at, wanted me to more discipline my mom, along the lines, "You cannot talk to my wife's mother like that." Me, my mom and my wife all sat down to talk, and all hell broke loose. Even the fact that we sat down to have a conversation about this sent my mom into rage, screaming, kicking furniture and banging fists on the table. No physical violence though. I try again and again to remember if I said anything that could be perceived as disciplinary, and I don't think so. The argument caught me by complete surprise, and she really could not articulate why she swore at my wife's mom earlier. But she was in a rage like I have never seen her. At one point she did say that she may have been disrespectful earlier, but the fact that we're sitting down to talk like this is the highest level of disrespect from me. This whole time my wife just retreated and shut down, making no eye contact with my mom but clearly fuming inside. The conversation went nowhere. My mom raged for several hours. I tried to keep calm and calm her down unsuccessfully while my wife sat in the corner of the room in quiet hatred. The following morning was my mom's flight to leave, and she left. In the following months, my mom would not pick up the phone or text me back. She did pass along through my grandparents, her parents, with whom I grew up and talk frequently, that what I did was the most devastating insult and emotional injury of her life. From her standpoint, I had betrayed my family and my culture and bowed down to my wife and her South American viewpoint. All this has been accompanied by lots of pretty racist remarks on South Americans in general. My mom eventually agreed to talk to me, and our conversations were very cold. I had tried to go back to the big argument in the trip, but that would immediately degenerate into my mom calling my wife a degenerate, stupid, ignorant and more. She also spoke in hateful terms about my wife's parents, that they're manipulative, only concerned about money and appearances. Multiple times she said that I should not stay married and should divorce my wife and get her and her parents out of my life. This went on for months with me mostly quietly listening and politely disagreeing but not really getting upset when she would say that. My thinking was that if I don't say anything else to upset her, perhaps we can at least be on speaking terms. Fast forward to my wife getting pregnant and giving birth to our son. The pregnancy and the baby boy had really been a source of joy in my life. I was excited when we got home. Maybe without thinking, I decided to give my mom a FaceTime call. She had known that my wife was pregnant but had not seen the baby yet. The moment she saw my son on the screen, she said, "Put him away, I don't want to see him." I was taken aback by this. I thought the past disagreement and even months of not talking to each other would be put aside to share this moment. The opposite happened. This reignited the hate in my mom for my wife and, as a result, for the baby boy. She saw him as my wife's blood, but not mine or her own. This hurt me very deeply. And I said things that I now regret. I said, "You don't want to see this boy because of the petty convoluted disagreements that arose during the trip." I said the reason she was still holding on to that hate was because she was insecure in her own motherhood, that seeing us together with the little boy just reminded her how she left me when I was a toddler. She was quiet for some time after that. Meantime, my anger dissipated, and we finished the conversation that we should at least chat once in a while, even if I don't mention the baby. But that was the last time I spoke to her about 1 year ago now. And I can't stop thinking about this. I can't stop regretting what I did or did not say during the road trip argument. If I had handled the conflict differently, perhaps we would have had a relationship. It brings tears to my eyes to think that my mom hasn't seen my child and does not want to. Overall, it feels like I've lost her forever, and all these thoughts of me and my mom spending time together when I was 16 and 17 keep coming up in my mind. I feel a lot of guilt about how I handled this. Also, being a new parent, I keep imagining her when she had me as a newborn and suffered as a result of my dad's actions. At that time, she must have thought about building the future for me and my son. But I have failed to live up to what she wanted from me. Most recently, I spoke with my grandparents via Skype, who said that my mom might reach out to you. But that was it. I have been seeing a therapist, which has helped substantially. My therapist obviously doesn't know my mom, but through my stories she felt that my mom might have a personality disorder, given how inexplicably emotionally violent her reactions have been to seemingly small things. Through her I've realized that my mom does have a pattern of abusive or controlling behavior and can go off the rails if she loses. That said, she is still my mom and I want to do right by her, even if she is very difficult. Maybe there are no answers here, but I am interested in your reflections and experiences on this story. Mom-hating wife seems to be a common trope, but how do you handle this? How can you handle the sense that you personally and culturally betray where you came from?
My opinion. I don't see what you have done wrong here. But I can see what your mother has done wrong. Your wife and her parents must be very patient and love you a lot. But your mother's behavior seems unacceptable. I can understand that she was tired and exhausted during the trip, which might lead to this conflict, but keeping that anger and not saying sorry is not right in this situation. Given what you said, I don't think that there is anything you can do. Sounds like your mother has some issues, none of them are your fault. Feels like your life might be more peaceful without you. I do feel like your grandparents are more parents to you than your mom, who left you and didn't really participate in your upbringing most of the time. I understand that you want her to participate more in your life now, but with all of that, you're not married to your mom. I don't feel like you should spend time making your mom feel better and have your wife listen to it. Now you have a whole family to care for. Prioritize that. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe on my channel.